So, hey, everybody, welcome to Spirit of Success University. Get goals for fall 22. I'm very grateful and excited that you prioritized your business today by taking this time to focus on laying a really good, strong foundation for your success this fall. And you'll want to make sure that you do have your goal achievement document in front of you. There's a link for it in the chat space. You also should have received a link for the handout in your confirmation before you or after you signed up. We're going to spend some time today solidifying your goals first, and then discussing strategies that will lead to your goal achievement. So again, thanks for being on today, guys. Leadership expert and author John Maxwell, in his book, Put Your Dream to the Test, quotes a goal study that found that 26% of the study's respondents said that they do focus on specific goals for their lives. 26% do. So I'm really encouraged that by your presence here today, or those of you watching the recording, you are identifying with that 26% that recognizes the value of goal setting. And that is great news, great news. That same study also found out, however, that only 7% of the respondents of that study, only 7% took daily action toward achieving their goals. So it's my goal for today that as a result of this class, you will be counted among the 7% of those who not only see the value of setting goals, but also takes daily action to achieve them. So let's get started with that. The very first step in setting and achieving your goals for this fall 22 is to reflect on the actions you took and the results you had in the first half of the year. I know for some of you that maybe is something that you're thinking, wait a minute, if we're going to set goals for the fall, why are we looking back on spring? Why are we looking back, January through June? Well, that's how we best learn. As we take a quick peek back at what you did and the results you had back in the first half of the year. So on page 1 of your handout, in that very first column, that left-hand column, I want you to think first about the successes that you had in your business the first half of this year, back January through June. I want you to list real quickly, just briefly, some of the successes that you had in your business. Think about different categories of your business. And it might help to take a quick peek at your spring date book or your planner from January through June. Maybe flip back. That can help jog your thoughts as to, oh yeah, I did get her booked, or oh yeah, I did have this many in-home parties. That's the place I would start. Look back and think, how many in-home parties did you have? Because, a lot of us were back to having those in-home shows, those in-home parties, the first part of this year, when a lot of you hadn't had a chance to do that recently. So maybe look back January through June. How did you do with your in-home shows? Just jot down what were the successes with your in-home shows, and jot that down on that first page, in that first column. How about those in-home shows? What did you feel was a success for you the first half of the year? And then consider your virtual shows. I'm sure you had virtual shows. So when you look back, again, look back in your calendar, what did you feel was a success with regard to your virtual shows? Maybe just jot down 1 or 2 just brief thoughts. What did you feel was a success with your virtual shows, January through June? Another category you might think about as you're looking back on last spring and the successes you had is think about the people you talked to about your career opportunity. Did you consistently talk to people? Did you talk to maybe some specific people? How many people did you talk to? Maybe they didn't say yes yet. Maybe they actually said no or not now, but I just want you to think about the successes you had with mentioning your career opportunity. Maybe you mentioned it at your shows. Maybe you talked specifically to your hostesses. So think about how you introduced your career opportunity and what successes did you have with that last spring? Just jot down some thoughts. Now, of course, you want to jot down the successes you had with signing anybody last spring. How many people did you sign? How many new team members did you bring on? If you did, that's a success. Jot that down. Another success would be new hostesses. Did you get new hostesses? Maybe there was a specific new hostess that you were excited to have book a show with you last spring. So jot down your thoughts on new hostesses. How many new hostesses did you have? Were they in new areas? Did you have somebody that you were most excited that she booked? So think through your new hostess successes. Same thing with new customers. You know, did you really set a goal for new customers last spring? And if so, how many new customers did you meet last spring? Maybe you lost track, but if you were counting them, you know, that it's a good thing to keep track of how many new customers. Those new customers turn into new hostesses, which turn into new team members quite often. So it's a good goal to have, new customers. Or maybe there was some other specific goal that you targeted. Maybe there was an incentive or a specific leadership level that you were targeting last spring. So just jot down some of those successes in that first column. All right, now I'd love for you to take just one of your successes and write it in the chat space. Just take one of your successes and jot it down in the chat space. So I'd love to see. What were the successes that you found? Love to see it in the chat space. Just one success. I know you have many. So I'd like each of you just to jot down a success. That'd be great. That helps us all kind of learn from each other and encourage each other. So what's one success? Okay, I see a couple of you jotting some things down. So Karen, thanks. 20 shows with 9 new hostesses. Good job. Good job. Anybody else jot down a success? I know there are several of you on our call, so jot down a success. That encourages each other, and we can cheer for each other and celebrate each other. The successes are what we gauge, not anybody else. Nobody else is going to judge our successes. Us. We're the only ones that gauge our successes. So thanks for thinking through your successes. Now, look at the middle column on page 1. Lessons learned. Lessons learned. Those are actions that you tried last spring, but they fell a little short. They fell a little flat. They really didn't meet your expectations. So actions you took that maybe fell a little short. And these are lessons that you learned, maybe goals that you didn't accomplish. Maybe you realized that you were not consistent with sharing your career opportunity at your shows, and as a result, you didn't recruit anyone. And so that's a lesson learned. So you can jot that down under lessons learned. Or maybe you struggled to get 2 shows booked from each of the shows that you held, and you realized that you were a little lacking in how you were talking about that at your shows, or maybe lacking in your follow-up. That's a lesson learned. So let's jot down a lesson learned, 1 or 2 lessons learned. Maybe you realized your virtual show attendance was not all that you had planned that it would be. And now you're realizing that engagement on your virtual shows was not what you had hoped it was. And you had a lower show average. So there's a lesson learned. Or perhaps you had intended to strengthen your customer follow-up, and the season just kind of got away from you, and you really didn't strengthen your customer follow-up. So there's a lesson learned. So just jot down 1 or 2 lessons learned on the middle of page 1, so that as you look back at spring, you're saying, okay, there's some things I learned. It's really important to identify these are lessons learned. These are not failures. Lessons learned provide you with opportunities to make changes, to make improvements, to make adjustments, to try again. So remember that with lessons learned, you discover not just what was lacking, but you also discover why. And you then can make some changes for this half of the year. So jot down just a couple of lessons learned. Again, these are areas that are super important because now you can make adjustments. So that's where we go next. Take a look at the third column on that first page. Now we want to reflect on adjustments. Pick one of your lessons learned and make that an adjustment. Pick one of those lessons learned and think, okay, what do I want to adjust? What do I want to change? What do I want to grow? Oftentimes it is from your lessons learned, but just jot down a couple of adjustments that you want to make this fall, that you want to see, that it's different, that it changes. Something you want to grow, you want to do differently. So jot that down in the third column on page 1. So now I want you to take one adjustment that you just wrote down, and I want you to share that in the chat space. What is one change you want to make, or one adjustment you want to make this fall? One area that you want to grow. So let's jot that in the chat space. What's one area you want to grow, you want to change, you want to adjust? And you can put that in the chat space. Just one area you want to grow or change or adjust. Do differently. Just one thing you want to do differently. All right, Karen, you want to share the opportunity at every show. Good deal. Good deal. It's a good adjustment. Thank you for that. Anybody else? What adjustment do you want to make or change do you want to make? Well, it's important to identify an adjustment because that's going to become part of your goal for this fall. Now that you've reflected on the first half of the year, you now have a foundation upon which to build your fall goals. So I really want you to pick one of your adjustments that you listed on page 1, and I want you to flip over to page 2. Flip over to page 2. And I want you to take one of the adjustments that you really want to focus on most this fall, and I want you to write it on page 2. You'll notice under number 2 on page 2, I want you to jot down your adjustment. Or under number 1, I should say, on page 2. Under number 1 on page 2, I want you to jot down what's your adjustment. What's going to be that one thing that you really want to focus on most this fall? What do you want to focus on most this fall? What's that adjustment? All right, Janet, thanks for sharing that. You want to build your party schedule. You want to have 8 to 10 parties each month, or at least 2 to 3 a week. You want to share the opportunity. So you've got some adjustments there, that some things you want to do differently. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so each of you took one of your adjustments. You put that over on page 2 under number 1, under point number 1. And now we're going to turn that into an effective goal. We're going to turn that into an effective goal. So goals begin with an I will statement. I will. So you'll see the example that's there on page 2. So it's not just, I need to hold more shows. Instead, you want to be more specific. So again, take a look at the example. I will prioritize serving my clients by holding at least one show per week through December. I will prioritize serving my clients by holding at least one show per week through December. That's a very specific goal, and it's effective goal because it's I will, and it's got a specific action with a specific amount, quantifying it, and a specific time frame. So it's a specific action, specific quantity, and a specific time frame. By the way, goal expert and author Michael Hyatt, in his book, Your Best Year Ever, notes a goal study that found that you have a 42% greater chance of achieving your goals if you write them down. A 42% greater chance of achieving them by writing them down. So that's why it's important on page 2, write down your I will statement with what you want to adjust. What's your I will goal? 42% greater chance of achieving them.
What was his name, Beth?
Michael Hyatt.
Michael Hyatt.
Hyatt, like Hyatt. Michael Hyatt. And his book, Your Best Year Ever. He also wrote Not Put Your Dream to the Test. That's Maxwell. My mind's going blank. Anyway, he's written several goal books. I've got several of them. I could grab them off my shelf. But yeah, Michael Hyatt's he's definitely the expert in goal setting. A good one to follow. You can look him up. You can follow he's got podcasts, blogs, and things like that. So you've got your I will statement. It's an effective goal. It also, an effective goal, looking at page 2, follows the SMART process. You've no doubt heard of the SMART process for creating effective goals, according to Michael Hyatt. Again, the SMART process was developed by GE, General Electric, for their employees many, many years ago. And now it's been adopted by like everyone. You'll see it listed on your handout, but I know you're familiar with it. The S stands for specific. So your goal needs to be specific in order to be effective. Like the example you see, I'll prioritize my clients by holding at least one show each week through December. Very specific. The M is measurable. You can measure it. You can quantify it. So again, in our example, one show per week can be measured. So you want to make sure that your goal has a quantity, is quantifiable, can be measured. The A in SMART is actionable. Goals have actions to achieve them. So in our goal example, holding one show is an action. And we'll talk more about actionable strategies in just a little bit. But you want to make sure that your goal has an action. The R in SMART is realistic. Is it realistic? Is your goal that you wrote down, is it realistic for where you are in your business right now? Are you a veteran in your business, or are you brand new to your business? Where are you in your business right now? You want it to be realistic, but one bit of caution, don't let realistic lull you into a too safe comfort zone. Again, Michael Hyatt recommends that the R in SMART not only refer to realistic, but that it also refers to risky, meaning just a little bit challenging, just a little bit stretchy. A goal that does stretch you a little bit outside your comfort zone is good. So you can stay on your toes and you don't become bored with a goal that is too safe, too easy. For example, one show per week is realistic for most consultants who are newer to their businesses or who work another full-time job. It's realistic to think, okay, one show per week, very realistic. However, one show per week may not be risky enough for those of you who already easily accomplish that goal already. That's playing it too safe. And playing it too safe will not be motivating. So realistic is good, but be certain your goal still stretches you. so you don't give up on a goal that is too safe, too easy. So think of the R in SMART as realistic and risky enough to stretch you a little bit, challenge you. And then the T in SMART is time sensitive, meaning does it have a deadline date? So our example, 1 show per week through December, is a goal that has a deadline date. It has a weekly date and it has an end of the year, end of December date. So make sure that's time sensitive, because you know what you call a goal without a deadline date? A wish. And you're not running your business based on wishes and hopes. That's just not a business. So a goal has a deadline date. So take a minute, use those 5 SMART steps and test your own I will goal. Make sure it's specific, measurable, actionable, realistic and risky, and time sensitive. Take a second and make sure it's SMART. All right, now I'd love to have you write your SMART goal in the chat space, so each of us can encourage each other. I'd love you just write your I will SMART goal now that you've tested it. You know it's SMART. Let's write it in the chat space. One statement. Don't try to do 5 goals all in one. Just pick one. One statement. I will, just like the example. Jot that in the chat space. Eager to see what you're going to put in the chat space. Your I will goal in the chat space. Thanks, guys. All right, Janet, I will have my sales 1,000 to 1,500 per party. So your party average is 1,000 to 1,500. And Janet, is that all the way through? Is that all the way through December? Is that your kind of deadline date? Okay, so let's make sure we just add that, you know, August through December.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, so 1,000 to 1,500 per party, August through December. So that way you have a deadline date. So that's a SMART goal. Anybody else popping your goal up there? All right. All right, guys, now let's turn to page 3, point number 3 on page 3. And I want you to identify 2 to 3 actions or strategies that you will take to achieve your SMART goal. That's the A in SMART that I referenced a minute ago. The A means actions or strategies. Now you see the example there on page 3. So, you know, the goal is to book 1 show a week. So the actions to book 1 show a week might be, just an example, you wouldn't just start emailing people or texting people to get 1 show a week. It makes sense to do what, guys? Stop and create a list first. So maybe you'll make a list of 50 women who have booked in the past or who have purchased in the past that you'd like to reach out to. So you'll make a list of 50 women that you want to share your catalog with, you want to share the new products with. And then maybe another step is you'll host a preview show and invite those 50 women. Some of them are local, some of them are long distance. So you may do a virtual preview, you may do an in-person preview, you may do both, probably both. But maybe that would be your next action. Then at that preview party, that preview show, you'll invite them to create a wish list of all the new products they love, and then invite them to treat themselves to the hostess program to be able to get those items they love with your discounts. So those are just some of the examples of actions to achieve that goal. So on page 3, I want you to put your I will goal, write it again, doesn't hurt to write it again, and then list 2 or 3 actions that you will take to achieve your I will goal. So page 3, you'll see the example, but in the blank space, write your I will goal. And then under it, A, B, C, what are your action steps that you will take on a daily, weekly basis? Karen, I appreciate your goal that you'll invite one guest to each virtual opportunity event through December. Good deal. Just replace A for one, at least one. Maybe say at least one. That way, if you have two or three, that's good. And remember, I will invite at least one guest to each virtual opportunity event through December. Good deal. Good deal. Now, again, middle of page 3, you're listing 2 or 3 strategies or actions to achieve your goal. You're listing 2 or 3 strategies or actions to achieve your goal on page 3. And again, use the example. So no doubt you'll have more than one goal for fall. And so you'll want to create a list of action steps that you'll be taking daily or weekly for each of your goals. Just like the example you see on page 3, just like the one that you just did. Your one I will goal should have 2 or 3 action steps, just like the example. And then each of your goals for fall, you want to take time after the call to do that. All right, now let's turn to page 4. Now let's turn to page 4. You'll notice that there, are several spaces to list some additional goals at the top of page 4 that you'll take, throughout this fall. So you'll want to pick maybe all of those, maybe several of those categories to finish listing as your goals for the fall. And I encourage you to spend some time after the call to complete this section. For example, your sales, your number of parties, your party average, recruiting, new hostesses, new networks that you want to get into, any other group or team goals, any kind of incentive goals, again, number of new customers that you want to see. So any of those categories you see listed at the top of page 4, complete that section after our call. And I really encourage you to write them out as I will statements. I know it's easy just to jot a number down. You want 2 new recruits, or you want, 3 shows a month or whatever. But I encourage you not just to jot down a number, but write out the I will, just like we learned on the previous 2 pages, so that you're getting good practice with that. I think it's Zig Ziglar said a goal rightly written is halfway achieved. So we want to make sure we write it out in the proper format. And then after you write out your I will statements for those goals on page 4, if you need help with that section, I encourage you to set an appointment to meet with your upline leader. I mean, that's why she's there, to help you with your goals. And again, setting your goals is just as important as working on your goals. So if you need help, go to your upline leader, or at the end of the call, I'll share how you and I can work together on establishing and completing that section too. So now in the middle of page 4, let's take a look at point number 5 in the middle of page 4, point number 5. And I'd love for you to write down, what is your number 1 must accomplish goal by December 31st? Maybe it's the same one you've been writing, but maybe you've got a different one. What is the number 1 must accomplish goal for you by December 31st? Jot it down under point number 5. Make sure it's stretchy enough that will keep you motivated for 5 months. What is it that by December 31st, you absolutely must accomplish? That number one goal. And then notice you're also asked to share why is that important to you. So jot down why is that important to you. Again, on page 4, point number 5. What's that number one must accomplish goal by December 31st, and why is that important to you? Now, I'm curious if you'll jot down, what is that must accomplish goal for you? Jot it down in the chat space. Love to see what you have to say. What is most important to you to accomplish? Maybe it's exactly what you've been writing, but let's see. Let's encourage each other. What would you absolutely must accomplish? Not just, I'd like to see this done, or I've had this on my list for 5 years. It's like, this has to happen by December 31st. What is it that you must accomplish? And that you're passionate. Clearly, you're passionate about it. So jot it in the chat space. All right, let's see. Karen says, I must have 20 shows with 2 new guests at each to have growth in my business. Good for you. You absolutely know what you want, Karen, and you know why you want that. So thank you for that. It's a great example. I'd love to have others of you write, what's that must accomplish goal for you by December 31st? You're saying, this is it. This is where it's got to happen. You're passionate about it. You know why you want it. All right, and then take a look at number 6. Number 6 on page 4, just what excites you most about that goal? What excites you most about accomplishing that number one goal? What excites you most about that? So what excites you most about that number one goal? Look at number 6 on page 4. And it's important to know what excites you, not just now about that goal, but 6 weeks from now, when you might hit a pothole, you might stumble, you might hit a roadblock. We all do. It's super important to be able to look back and say, okay, I'm still excited about this. I'm still excited and I'm still passionate about this goal. So to overcome challenges, it's important to reflect on that. Okay, now point 7 on page 4. What is the number one obstacle? What is that number one roadblock that could come up that you've got to overcome in order to accomplish your number one goal? What's that number one obstacle? Let's jot it down. What's the number one obstacle you absolutely must overcome in order to accomplish your number one goal? It's essential that we know what our obstacles are so you can prepare to overcome them. You got to know. You don't want to go into the season blind. You want to make sure that you're saying, yeah, I know this is an area that could pop up. This is an area where I've got to be aware that it could be a stumbling block. So be aware of that stumbling block. Be aware of that obstacle that could pop up so you can prepare for it. This is where digging into training in your company's back office, where having a good support system of your peers, a support system of your upline is so valuable. If you really want to break through to goal achievement this fall, if you absolutely want to hit that must accomplish goal, it's essential to know what the number one obstacle will be and that you have a good support system. So now lastly, let's take a look at point number 8 on page 4. What is your personal growth plan for this fall? What is your personal growth plan? If you want your business to grow, you have to grow. If you want to achieve your number one goal, you have to invest in your own personal growth. So what resources will you access to help you grow in your thinking, to help you develop new skills to accomplish that goal. What books will you read? What podcasts will you listen to? What, consultant buddies will you connect with and be in a small group with so you can encourage each other? What is your personal growth plan? Because you've got to invest in you if you're going to reach that number one goal. There are probably skills, there's probably mindset that you want to make sure you're keeping sharp. So what's your plan? So jot that down. What's your plan? I'm curious. I'd love to have you unmute and share. Anybody who's got your thoughts written down on what is your personal growth plan for the fall? What do you do to invest in you? Unmute and share with us. Maybe there's a book you're reading. Maybe there's a small group that you're part of. Maybe there's podcasts you listen to. I'd love to hear. So go ahead and unmute if you'd like to share. Or type it in the chat space, but love to hear from you. Anybody have thoughts?
I'll start.
Thanks, Karen.
here. Last season, we had 5, I just put it out to our whole team, our bigger team, and we did a little goal commitment to each other, kind of. It didn't matter what the goal was. And just we met ongoing throughout the season, but being accountable to each other. Worked well, except we kind of fell off because time and all that kind of thing kind of got in the way. So that would be, I would like to do that again, but I'd like to somehow make it more accountable as we continue to go. So I probably would need help with that.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Having that small group, that accountability group, those sisters that you get together, that you each share each other's goals. Again, there's no judgment that we're, you all love each other and we're not judging that. We're helping each other. You're sharing strategies, Karen. You probably shared ideas and strategies, I would imagine, and helped each other over the road bumps and obstacles. And that's what a small group is there for. And I appreciate that you said, you know what, we kind of fell off. And I will tell you, as you look ahead to this season, you guys, what are those last 2 months, November, December? Those are the 2 months that can really get us completely, out of focus, where it's like, oh my goodness, we're running around because it's the holidays. But if you determine now in August, the way that you're doing, Karen, if you and 3 or 4 of your sisters, so to speak, your peers decide right now, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this all the way through, December 15th or December 10th, at least, then put it on the calendar. Then make sure you're meeting together. Make sure you're holding each other accountable. If somebody misses, you all go out and say, hey, what's going on? We're together in this. We care about you. You care enough about each other to not let each other slip up. So, make that a commitment now. I appreciate that. That does happen to small groups. That's why it's important that your small group, Karen, and this is for all of you who do a small group, and I hope you all will. You set a time frame that we're going to start on August thus and such, and we're going to end on December thus and such. Because if you have a beginning time and an ending time, rather than just we're meeting forever, kind of that feeling, that's when we tend to wear out. So having those parameters can help, and a specific date and time that everybody commits to, and that we commit to each other, short of some, God forbid, crisis, that we're on this call, we're meeting together, we're going to be Zooming, we've got our cameras on, we're here for each other. Everybody could do something else with their own half hour, but we're going to commit to each other for that half hour. something like that, that kind of commitment, and even make it formal. Everybody signs it, you know, that way we know, I mean, you can go short of, pinky swear, but I think that's a good one to bring up, Karen. Thank you for that. I think we've all been part of small groups that have been good, and those that maybe have fallen a little short. So thank you for that. That can be one of the most critical elements in goal success, is to have a group of people surrounding you. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, guys, bottom of page 4, list how you're going to track your daily and weekly progress for your goal actions. Maybe you're going to create a chart to record your progress and you're going to keep it on your desktop. Or maybe you're going to create a chart and hang it visually in your office so you visually see it every moment of the day. Maybe you have a goals dashboard tracker as part of your back office. Your company provides that. One of my favorite tracking tools, very simple, is in my planner. At the end of each day, I record my daily wins for that day. Sometimes it's one win, sometimes it's a couple. But in other words, I list at least one action that I took that day that moved me closer to my goal. I literally write it in my planner, at the bottom of my planner. And it helps me see that I'm making progress. I look back over the week and I review my progress for that week, and it creates momentum, and momentum creates motivation. That's what carries you through an entire 5-6 months. So just jot down what will be the way that you track your progress. Jot that down at the bottom of the page. How do you visually track your progress? Do you use an app? Do you use a goal dashboard tracker? Do you visually have a chart? How do you track your progress? Because, as Karen was mentioning earlier about sustainability with small groups, sustainability with goals is our challenge, isn't it? Sustainability, keeping at it. And that's why it's critical that you have a goal tracker, a method to track. It can't just be in your head. That doesn't work. There are some tracking apps, stridesapp.com, habitlist.com. Those are a couple of apps that I've heard of that you can check out, that they have different types of trackers that you can create for yourself, Strides app and Habit List. But again, you can do something as simple as a thermometer chart. I mean, how many of us have done the thermometer graph, year after year, and it works. It works. So make sure you have a way to track your progress, or by the end of August, your motivation, your focus will really drift. Lastly, the most pivotal step in goal setting is to move from goal setting to goal achieving, right? That's what really you're here to talk about and learn about goal setting today, but the most important thing is to go to the next step, which is goal achieving. And that's done when you take your planner and you schedule when you do each of the action steps and each of the strategies that you listed, because action is what it takes for you to go from goal setting to goal achieving. And that's oftentimes where we kind of fall short. We set goals, and then remember, 26% of people will set the goals, but only 7% actually take action. And the big gap is people don't take their goals that they just wrote on paper and put them into their daily planner to actually see that they're taking those actions. Remember this, guys, what gets scheduled gets done. What gets scheduled gets done. So you can't just get up and start making these to-do lists that are random, that have nothing to do with your goal. You've got to make sure that your to-do list is reflective on your goal. And then you take that to-do list and put it into your planner, your time slots. So what gets scheduled gets done. Remember that. And I can help with that, by the way. I mentioned at the beginning of our call that I would share a few special surprises. One of them is that our next free Spirit of Success University class will be a class called Planning for Success. It's a very popular class that where I'll show you how to turn your goals into daily actions so that you actually see progress toward goal achievement. Some of you have taken that class. Some of you need to take it again because you want to, not because you need to, but you want to. Some of you have never taken that, and I will encourage you to take that. Keep an eye out for when that class will be scheduled. You want to look on the Spirit of Success with Beth Jones Shaw community page on Facebook. I think most all of you are members on that page. That's where you'll see when I will schedule. It's called Planning for Success. You definitely want to be a part of that because it takes what you did today and takes it to the next step. So that's our first surprise. Another surprise that I want to share, and it's really for today only. And those of you who are listening to the recording, be sure that you're paying attention as well. It's a special offer for you to engage in follow-up coaching sessions. I know many of you are currently coaching with me, and it's been my joy to see your progress in your business and to see you achieve your goals of your heart's desire. I've watched you do that as we've coached together. Others of you have thought about coaching, but you haven't taken that step yet. So I have two opportunities for you today. First, if you just want to test the waters of what coaching is about, you're a little nervous about it, a little apprehensive, you're not sure it's for you, not sure you can afford it or whatever, I recommend that you gather a few friends together and form a small group for coaching to jumpstart your fall goals, that all of you would want to jumpstart your fall goals. And a jumpstart group is a group of 4 people of your choosing. So you and 3 friends, and you would meet with me in a small group for 2 one-hour sessions. And this can help you jumpstart your actions and jumpstart your goals. So you and 3 buddies, we would schedule time together to meet for 2 one-hour sessions. It would be sometime this month or early September because we got to jumpstart. We got to get it going. And the cost for 4 people for those 2 sessions, it's just $50 per person per session. $50 per person per session. So it's just $400 total for the whole group. So that's a great way to just get your feet wet. You can afford $50 for just each of those 2 sessions, and you get a couple of other buddies to do that with you. It's only going to be available until Wednesday, this Wednesday. I do not have many spaces available in my schedule for small groups, but if you are interested, be sure to email me right away and we'll get your group together. Again, just 2 one-hour sessions to help you jumpstart into the fall. It's a great way to get your feet wet, to be able to see what coaching is about. But again, got to know by the end of the day on Wednesday, this Wednesday. Second opportunity for those of you who have specific goals that you want to accomplish by December, that must accomplish goal by December, and you can't go it alone. You can partner with me for individual one-on-one coaching. You can enjoy 12 one-hour sessions for just $1,200. And that's a $300 savings that I'm offering only for those of you on the call today. And again, that's only good until the end of Wednesday, end of the day Wednesday, 48 hours. So don't wait. I do have limited space available again this rest of this season for coaching spots. And those of you who are my clients right now, I didn't forget you. I will extend that current contract, extend your current contract for that 12 at $1,200. Because again, that's an offer that most of you have not enjoyed to this point. So I want you to be able to enjoy that. And lastly, kind of a bonus invitation I extend to each of you, invite you to join me on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. East Coast, 7 a.m. Pacific. I offer a First Things First Bible study call, and numbers of you and your direct sales friends meet with me for 30 minutes on Monday mornings for a time of prayer, time of Bible study, just to kind of commit our businesses to the Lord. So if you're curious about that, just email me, Beth@spiritofsuccess.com. It's every Monday morning at 10 a.m. East Coast, 7 a.m. Pacific. And we have a whole group. We've met together for, 17 years. We've had our prayer group going on, and we have fun Bible study time. It's only 30 minutes, but it really does make a difference on Monday mornings to set your focus in your business for the rest of the week. So if you're curious, just email me, Beth@spiritofsuccess.com. So today we focused on 3 goal achievement steps to kick off your fall season. First, you reflected on your successes, lessons learned, and adjustments from spring. Secondly, you learned how to set SMART goals and strategies for the fall. And third, you began to consider how you will track and measure your progress so you keep the momentum going. So you've gotten off to a good start, but the next step is yours. So real quick in the chat space, if you will just do me the favor of, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being most helpful, 1 being not helpful, how helpful was today's class with setting your goals for fall? 5 most helpful, 1 not helpful. How helpful was today with setting your goals for the fall? Did it help, not help? Kind of let me know and put that in the chat space, and I would appreciate that. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. I just want to know that this helped you get started. Remember that if you want to take the next step, you can do a small group or you can do one-on-one private coaching, but I've got to know by the end of Wednesday. Don't wait. Beth@spiritofsuccess.com. And let's be sure we stay in touch every day. There will be tips and ideas and training tips and such on my Facebook page. Again, the Spirit of Success with Beth Jones Shaw Facebook group. So be sure you're part of that, or you're going to miss out on something, and I don't want that to happen. So I'll stay on to answer questions if you'd like. If you have to jump off, thanks for being on, and I sure hope that this was helpful. Hope to hear from you. So unmute if you would like. If you have to jump off, thanks guys, I appreciate it. Again, stay in touch on our Facebook page, Spirit of Success with Beth Jones Shaw. Thanks guys.
I have a quick question.